This is a book group for Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens was born in a small house in Landport, Portsea, England, on February 7th, 1812. Growing up, Dickens's family was frequently in financial debt, which ended up landing his whole family in jail except for himself. And he ended up having to work in a London blacking warehouse away from his family, where he pasted labels on bottles for a small wage. After his family's debts were paid off and his family's wealth improved, Dickens went back to school, then went from an office boy to a freelance reporter, and finally became an author. Although Charles Dickens was able to escape his grim childhood, his experiences of isolation haunted him for the rest of his life, and these experiences became the foundation of most of his novels. Charles Dickens' first book that landed him almost immediate fame was Pickwick Papers, which was soon followed by several other classic novels such as Oliver Twist, Christmas Carol, and Great Expectations. Great Expectations, which was one of Dickens' later novels, is the story of a young boy named Pip growing up in London as an impoverished young orphan, who, by luck, gains a fortune. The story continues and tells about Pip's lifetime and the fortunes and misfortunes he comes across. Like many of Dickens' other stories, it reflects back to Dickens' own life and experiences about growing up impoverished, and how escaping this can change a person's own self-image and pride. Now we're going to talk about the theme and beginning of the story.
Charles Dickens introduces the theme of the book by beginning with how innocent and naive Pip is as a young boy. Pip is satisfied with his life and is not even aware that he is of a lower class background. He believes that everyone lives the way he does, as it is the only way of life he has ever known or been exposed to. Despite his brother-in-law's illiteracy and uneducated background, Pip explains that I had a new sensation of feeling of conscious that I was looking up to Joe in my heart, Dickens 51. He looks up to Joe because of Joe's strong morals and his overall kindness towards Pip and Pip's sister, who's Joe's wife. It is not until Pip is introduced to Miss Havisham and her daughter Estella that Pip is exposed to how extravagant some people live. It is here where Dickens introduces the theme of class in Pip's own mind into the book. All of a sudden, Pip's innocence to society's class system becomes clear to him, and he begins to idolize the Havishams and their wealthy lifestyle. For the first time in Pip's life, he begins to feel ashamed of himself and his background, self-consciously thinking that I was a common laboring boy, that my hands were coarse, that my boots were thick, that I had fallen into a despicable habit of calling knaves jacks, that I was much more ignorant than I had considered myself last night, and generally that I was in a low-lived, bad way. Dickens begins to open Pip's insecurities with his own self and family, which carries out through the rest of the book.